application? Steve, that means you. It's time, Steve.
It's time today.
Overtime.
Can you guys hear me online? Thank you. All right, Steve, you want to start us off?
With my report?
No, with public hearing.
Public hearing.
Oh, the public hearing, yes. This hearing has to do with the state funding that is going to be provided to the Lockwood Mills project that Dan is here tonight to represent the owner of the project. We have to go through a series of a couple of steps in order to accept the money from the state that then will be provided directly to the Lockwood Mills project. The city is the conduit for that process, and it's community development block grant funding, $450,000 that's going to be part of that project's financing package. So the hearing that you have tonight is to receive public comment on the grant, which is what the $450,000 is.
You want to give us any other information?
I'll be happy to answer any questions. We're just really thankful to have such.
I'm going to have to get you go up there, I'm sorry. They're not going to be able to hear you.
He's got to go to the podium. There he goes.
I just wanted to say that we'll answer any questions that you have tonight, myself and a colleague, Mariah, who's on Zoom. And we're just so thankful for the support from the city and for the continued support of the community for this really important project. And we're really excited to get it off the ground.
Been taking us some time, huh?
It's a lot of steps.
How many
you, Jay.
units again?
It'll be 65 in the first phase.
How many total when we're all done with all the phases?
It depends on the sizing, but generally close to 100 in that initial building, which is the former Martin's building, Mill 1 they call it.
Yeah, I see you guys have already started doing some work out there, so.
We've been doing abatement for pretty much a year now.
Uh-huh.
So we need to make the building safe in order to get all the crews in there to work, and we're inching closer every day.
Have any counselors with questions? I'm going to go with Rebecca, and then, yeah, you can bring her in. Thank you. You're on mute, Rebecca.
Yeah, I was just wondering if this is a, you said that the state was ready to provide these funds. Was this a competitive application? And what was the process regarding funds to projects in Waterville?
Do you have an answer for her?
At the podium.
Sorry, I know it. They can't hear you if you don't go up there.
Competitive process to get them.
This community block grant was part of the process in applying through Maine State Housing and some of the other agencies that we need to go to do a workforce housing type project.
And Rebecca, when we did this a couple of years ago and we started on this project, it was based on what the city did for a TIF and how we helped them structure it and develop it. They were awarded so many points on a scale for like a bunch of different categories, if I'm not mistaken. And that was put up against other projects in the state, essentially, and that's how we got that.
So this is not a new grant then? This is funds that, this has been in the works for a while?
For a couple of years.
For a couple of years.
Yeah, okay.
But it's
All
new to
right.
us.
Thank you, yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Any other councilors? All right, I'm going to go to Tammy Knight, and I'll go to you in a moment, sir. One moment, sir. We're going to let Tammy speak, and then I'll let you up.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Knight. I'm with the State of Maine Department of Economic and Community Development, and I manage the CDBG Block Grant Program, which is the Community Development Block Grant Program. So this grant came to us back in 2019 under our Special Projects Matching Funds Program. The Special Projects Matching Funds Program is a discretionary account that we have funds set aside into for projects that don't come to fruition through various years and various funding sources. So this application came in 2019. We approved it, sent the award letter to the city, and have sort of been holding back, waiting for the project to get their funding lined up, because it made no sense to put this under contract if the funding wasn't ready and the project wasn't ready to go, because then it starts the clock ticking for the city. So what we have now is our project development process. The project development process is a series of paperwork, and public hearing is one of them, because it is a community development block grant program, just to let the community know that you're going to accept the funds and that you are working on the project development phase, which is going to happen coming up at the city council meeting in just a few moments.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions for Tammy? All right, sir, you can go ahead. Just identify yourself so the council knows who you are.
Good evening. I'm Jim Began, 11 Morgan Street, Waterville, Maine. And I'm just curious if this grant is actually going to help us fit the needs that we have in Waterville. I mean, are we going to is this going to mean one bedroom, $1,000 a month, two bedrooms, $1,200 to $1,400 a month? I mean, I've had a home in Waterville for 50 plus years. I've been trying to sell for 3 years. I can't afford an apartment in Waterville. I mean, and so if we spend this money and do it all over again, and there's an apartment there for $1,000 for an efficiency, who does it serve? It doesn't serve anybody in the community. I'm sorry. If we do not have reasonable housing, which we have not had, market rate, come on, give me a break.
So it's actually workforce housing.
Okay, but what is a one-bedroom apartment going to cost?
That's
So-
part of it, is that the housing authority will start.
Okay, so that means then they'll be set at 30% of the gross income. Is that correct?
It's a scale.
I've been to the housing authority.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm unfortunately I can still walk and I'll do all that stuff there. I make just enough money so that I can't get into the housing. I'm retired. I did Social Security. I had my savings, but I still can't afford to get into Waterville housing because those places that are available, I fall a little bit above the income. I make moderate amount of money. I don't make enough. I mean, I make too much, by about $3,000. So wherever I go, I'm looking at $1,000 to $1,500 for an apartment in Waterville, if you can find it. I don't see that this is going to improve it at all for the average person. Yeah, if I'm a professor from Colby, or I'm a transient person who comes in for a couple of years, fine, I'll pay the extra money. Hathaway. I worked at Hathaway for almost 40 years, okay? I can't even afford to walk in there now. I mean, efficiency is $1,100. I mean, come on, with nothing there, no parking. And the other question I want to ask him is, originally it was thought that we would have a one-story parking garage. Is that in the works or not? Okay. Okay, very good. I just want to know because I really enjoy being 80 years old and be told at 4 o'clock in the morning that I gotta get up and move my car so it can be plowed. Thanks for listening.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for your comments. Any other counselors? Anybody else? Oh, Counselor Green, she appeared.
Oh, okay, I am here because, and maybe, is it Mr. Jakes who's here to speak about the Lockwood project? Because my understanding is that this is mixed income housing and that there are units tied to 50% of AMI and below, 60% of AMI and below, and then market rate. And so the whole point of this project, again, as I understand it, is exactly to address the issue that Mr. Began is raising. So I wonder if we could hear from.
I believe that you are 100% correct, Rebecca. Sir, can you just
Okay,
confirm that for her?
I think that's just important to clarify.
Nope, absolutely.
From the, yeah.
Yes, Counselor, this is a workforce housing project that falls under the scale where average income is evaluated by the Waterville Housing Authority, and then that helps to determine the rate that they would pay. Does that answer your question, Counselor?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the question from the resident was, just basically, can I afford this? Will I be able to afford apartments in these buildings? And I think it's, an important one.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm not sure that we can answer or we're qualified to answer that question. And I think that it's
Right.
important housing project for the city to bring more affordable housing. So I totally agree with the concerns and the comments, and I think that that's what our intent is.
Yeah, okay.
I think
But
you're
so
correct
those
in-
rates will be set
Good,
by-
Rebecca.
Those rates will be set by the housing authority, but you will be the owner of the building.
That's correct. We are the owners of the property, and the Waterville Housing
won't-
Authority is being managed. We're going to Maine State Housing Authority. It's been a process for a couple of years, as Ms. Knight had said. And it's designed to bring more affordable housing to the community.
Right, and I just want to say personally, I'm very excited about the project because I do think we need projects like these, and especially at this scale, where it's 65 units coming online, so I do appreciate everything that's gone into getting this project off the ground.
Thank you.
Any other counselors? Or anybody else from the public?
You got two up on the board.
I can't see them here.
Yeah, Elizabeth and
There we go.
Mariah.
Can we bring Elizabeth Leonard in, please? Now I see the hands.
Now you got it.
Thank you.
Yep. Elizabeth's in.
Can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Jay. I guess I have just heard the term, I've heard the term affordable housing, I've heard the term workforce housing. I believe that I was at the city council meeting a couple of years ago where this project was being discussed, and it was made very clear at that meeting that this was absolutely not going to be, this was the previous mayor, absolutely not going to be available for Section 8 housing. Don't worry, City of Waterville, it's for people who contribute to the community, not those nasty Section 8 people. Is that still true? To me, workforce housing has a different meaning from affordable housing, which has a different meaning again from deeply affordable housing. So these terms get thrown around as if they're the same, but that's the meeting I remember where it was made very clear it was not for deeply affordable housing. So I just wonder if that's still the case.
Elizabeth, I believe that is still going to be the case, where it is going to be based on the applicant's income. There will be no Section 8 there per se, but if you're making below the poverty line, you're probably going to get that at a very affordable rate from the state. But other than that, I do not believe that there is any. Is there any, sir? There is no Section 8. I am verifying that for you right now. It's an income qualification process.
Okay, so if you're below the poverty line, but you're gonna be able to get it at an affordable rate, I have to say that doesn't compute in my head, but it might be just my personal incapacity. So I'll sign off now.
No, I think you're right. And there are no perfect projects. We need some more affordable housing. And Mr. Beegan's right. I mean, I am the mayor of this city. I think I do pretty well for myself. And I would be hard pressed to find an apartment in this city that was affordable. Some of them are, there are some out there if you want to live in an apartment building, but otherwise it's pretty sparse as to what we can get.
That is true.
Can we bring in Mariah? Thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh, can you see me?
We can.
Hi, sorry, I wasn't able to join in, but I wish I could have been earlier to answer some of the questions. So this is definitely not Section 8 housing. This is the individuals who will qualify for this building will have to have some sort of income, and those who will qualify will make 50 to 60% of the area median income. So the area median income is not something that we can control, but that's how they peg rents. And it'll be 47 affordable units, and the rest will be market rate.
Mixed use. Any other questions? Oh, Counselor Green.
Yeah, it's not a question. I just want to make a comment about this project because while it is not a Section 8 project, which is an unfortunate term, really. I mean, we're talking about extremely low-income people who qualify for Section 8 vouchers, and they're. But this serves a really important need in the community, I believe. And one of the things that the Housing Committee has discussed over the past month is the need for mixed income projects, so that we have a range of people living together who have different income levels. And I think that's a strength here. And so, I do hear the need for more extremely low income housing, but this, I believe, does address a need that we have in Waterville, and we need to do much more, but we also need to get this project off the ground, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And the other thing I'll mention is that there's no differentiating in terms of design for the difference between the market rate and the low income units. The only thing that could possibly be changed is where they're put in the building, but in terms of design and finish, they're all the same. And we deeply believe in sort of the strength of having a mixed income community. We think it strengthens the project, and we agree in the mission of bringing affordable housing to Waterville and Maine.
Thank you, guys. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to move to our regular meeting. All right. Our part of the evening is over. Tonight all right. Good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pockets near the entrance or online at the city's website. All items appearing on the consent agenda are voted on in one motion and vote. Generally, these items are routine in nature and do not require discussion. All items listed under unfinished business or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once all councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must speak at the podium and identify themselves. Each citizen will be allowed one opportunity to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes. Finally, councilors will be given another opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the end of the meeting under the public comments section of the agenda. All rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Disclosure of conflict of interest. Anybody have any conflicts with any votes they're going to take tonight? Seeing none, I am going to move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are 3 things that I wanted to update the council on tonight. Actually, 3 things. One is that after the first snowstorm that we had just this past weekend, we find that the willingness of downtown stores and property owners to comply with our snow removal ordinance that puts the responsibility on them to clear the sidewalks in front of their properties is being sporadically complied with. And as I see it, we have three options. This has been an historical problem over the years, I'm told. And one option is that we continue to ask them to comply, but history suggests that that's not going to be an effective approach. The second option is that we fine them, and we can fine them up to $1,000 on a third offense. We have to take them to court to do that, but that would add insult to injury, given all that the downtown businesses have gone through with the build project underway, and we're on an uptrend. And I don't think that we want to create an atmosphere that's not business friendly. The third option is that the city take over the snow removal from the sidewalks. We have the tools to do it, we have the manpower to do it, and it will enable us to maintain the sidewalks in a way that we create a safe environment for pedestrian traffic, and we protect the new sidewalks from the use of inappropriate chemicals or salt and that sort of thing to deal with ice and other snow on the sidewalks. So what I'd like to do, and absent any significant objection from the council, I would like to embark on an experiment through this winter using city resources to clear the sidewalks downtown and see how it goes, see what difficulties we encounter, what successes we encounter, and then report back to you after this winter, and perhaps take it up during the budgeting season if we find that there's any additional cost involved. The second thing that I want to report to you is that on the COVID compensation that we have been working on and we distributed just this past payroll, we inadvertently overlooked two groups of Public Works employees. One is the regular seasonal staff that we have that have been with us for between 2 and 5 seasons, who work March through November, clearing all the trash, emptying the receptacles at the parks, doing all the mowing, etc. What I'd like to do is compensate them at a level of $300 each. There are 6 of them. We have the funds to do this because we have $170,000 of unspent payroll budgeted that goes to positions that we haven't been able to fill yet. So we can do that quite comfortably. It totals $3,600. No, $1,800.
Yeah.
So
You forget our discussion already?
without objection, I'll go ahead and do that. The other part of it is the waste disposal crew, the 3-man crew that mans the orange truck that picks up all the trash. Conferring with the Public Works Director, even though we had overlooked them, his recommendation is that they be given a comp day so that they get a day off instead of cash, and I'm happy to follow that recommendation. He knows his people. Then the third thing that I wanted to mention to you is that I've been approached by Reverend Osbrook and Councilor Foss about a program that Reverend Moe wants to initiate right here in this space to provide a daytime warming location as well as a feeding location for not just the homeless but the elderly and others who might be in need, to create a multifaceted communal space where people can come and get lunch. I'm told at this point that they're talking about sandwiches, not really hot meals, but they need some funding to get started. 6 months worth of rent in this space at the Elm would cost about $15,000. And if the city wants to invest in that effort to get something done right away that's going to deal with the homeless population in a way that at least gives them some relief from the cold weather and the lack of food, this could be it. I will require from Reverend Moe a written proposal that covers all the details of what she plans to do and who's going to be involved in it, et cetera. From an affordability standpoint, we can accommodate this expense from our health and welfare budget because we've spent about 10% of our emergency housing budget of $123,000 so far through November this year. So our costs are way down there, and we don't expect that there's going to be any kind of a spike in that budget that's going to leave it short anywhere. So we can accommodate $15,000 from that. So unless the council objects, what I'd like to do is just pursue that avenue with Reverend Moe, get the formal proposal in hand, and work out the details and proceed. Get something done. That's the end of my report.
Question, Steve. We discussed a lot of these things but my big one is, if you're gonna do the sidewalks, are we liable? I mean, currently, if businesses are supposed to take care of their frontage,
Well, that's one of the things that we'll have to make sure of and at least be insured for it, if not walk away from it because of the liability involved.
well, that's it.
But right now, the liability is all on the property owners and the tenants. And, you know, that could be a hefty burden for them. If somebody falls and gets injured, and you know my family story,
Yep.
that could be a hefty price tag for them.
Counselor Fons?
Mayor, I'd like to hear from Rev Mo. I'd like to hear what she's got in the plans for the,
And Clepac's next.
Good evening, thank you. Well, I think I'd like to just start with this one shocking number. I spoke to the Waterville area soup kitchen people today, and this is a group of volunteers who tried to replicate the hot lunch program that had been at Sacred Heart Church for 40 years. And they've been able to do it. They couldn't find a kitchen, they couldn't find dining space, and their model has been to cook food over at St. Mark's, put it in cars, go around to parks. It's really untenable. They were doing it 2 days a week through September and then kicked it up to 3 days a week. But to give you an idea of need, they told me tonight that they have served 6,832 meals. This is a lot of meals. The evening sandwich program, which had been in town for 30 years, and is situated over at the UU Church, the Universalist Unitarian Church, they had closed down during the beginning of the pandemic. They had a hard time starting up again, and it's been very sporadic. They've held elderly volunteers who haven't wanted to go out in this. There have been a lot of issues. They haven't been able to really kick it up. But normally, they were feeding, and they fed 6 days a week. They fed every day but Saturday night. They normally were producing enough meals to feed an estimated 140 households a day. So there's a great need. We've been watching this need for a long time now. We knew we needed to expand several meals programs before COVID hit. A lot of people have really suffered when these programs shut down. We're hoping to start it again. So the model is simple. It would be here in this space. The kitchen's very nice. I could walk you through it tonight. I have a key if you want to see it. It's ideally suited. There's no heavy lifting there. There's no great rental required. We just kind of spiff it up a little bit. The equipment's already in. It's workable. The model we have is to do 5 days a week. We like to do 6. We're talking about lunchtime, and we're thinking of skipping a day during the week and maybe serving on Saturday so that we can reach families with children. We thought that that might be something that we could try. How are we going to do it? Well, right now there are a number of volunteers who are already working for the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen, and at one time they were going to be working with me if we could get into the Sacred Heart Church. And they have a good number of volunteers. They're also food certified as handlers. We have other people from the evening sandwich program who would come over. And the pastor of this church has 40 years experience in both sheltering and feeding people. His wife, Gina Lynch, was Woman of the Year in Massachusetts twice for starting a program much like this. She fed 150 people a day, 3 days a week down in Salem, Massachusetts. So we have a lot of expertise and we can get this done. Food's not a problem. There's so much food in Waterville, some of it's going to waste. I've been talking to gleaners. They tell me how much food they throw away. So one of the big things we can do now is consolidate that food. Right now, there's food that's sitting over in freezers at the evening sandwich program that's got freezer burned because it hasn't been used. You know, we're going to be working with gleaners. We'll be getting food from Good Shepherd. We'll be getting food from the food pantry here. So the food's not the problem. The problem actually is the location, where to have it. There are not that many choices in town. It has to be a good kitchen, has to be accessible, has to be handicap accessible, has to have other things like that. And it's the rent. So the rent that we were quoted is $625 a week. And that would be, we'd have this during the day with the proviso that we had to have the room put back totally as you see it so that city council and planning board could come in here on the nights you're contracted to use it. And that was one of Bill Mitchell's concerns. He wanted to talk to Steve Daly about that to make sure the equipment could be secured. I've talked to Steve Daly, talked to Rick Foss. We think we can get that done. So that's a condition of it. COVID's another problem, so I want to discuss that. We were hoping to start this as soon as possible because we have the people, we have the food, hopefully we have the place. I don't know what the surge is going to look like. We're going to follow all CDC recommendations, of course. If we had to close down, we would. One of the beauties of locating it here in this church is we have the Essentials Closet right across the hall here. This church is already situated to serve the community and has been doing it for a very long time. The pastor's on site. I office here, so does Reverend Nancy Finland. The hope is people could pick up some essentials when they were here too. So, but as to COVID, we have a nurse ministry team in our church. The 3 professional retired RNs. So we'd implement all the things we need to do. Masking, the staff would all be fully vaccinated. We're not going to turn people away who aren't, but we would require masking and we would do contact tracing. And if we had to close down, we would. But we're hoping we can, work around that. So I guess my assurance to you is that we're working with a team of healthcare professionals who would be guiding us in that respect. We're also working with a team of people who have fed many people before. They're certified to handle food. We can do that. So I guess the ask here is, why do we need the money? Well, we need the money because it would launch this quicker. If I don't have the money, I'm still hoping to do this. But it'll divert funds from Starfish Village that we're currently using for other things. And we think that if we do this for 5 months, 6 months, we're going to really launch this, and we're going to be in a position to actually find revenue from other sources, grants and things like that. So this is kind of seed money for us. My goal is actually to do it with or without you, and I sure hope you're with me on this, because this is really needed. Can I take any questions?
Actually, I'm going to give Councilor Klepak a moment because he and I talked a couple weeks ago before he left, and he had some fantastic ideas.
Wonderful.
Well, my question actually is probably for Reverend Mo. How many people do you think that you could serve in a day, and what do you think the actual demand is? You told me how, I heard how many meals were being, the 6,000 meal statistic, but what does this actually mean in terms of the daily usage?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, but I would like to try to answer it. Just with the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen going to 4 sites 3 days a week now, there are people waiting for them when they get there, taking food home, happy to have it. And so their number is 6,800 so far this year part-time. that's a lot of people. I don't know. I think that how we get this out is how we're passing the word. We have a variety of ways of doing that. I think it might be a slow start, given the weather, winter, and all that. But I estimate that it will be actually a more robust program than Sacred Heart had for 40 years. I went online. It was hard to find some data about that program. But I looked back, and in 2011, the Sacred Heart lunch program fed about 150 people a day. So I don't know. I can't tell you, but I think we'll find out. I mean, we're sure going to find out.
So you're saying that you anticipate it being higher than 150 people a day?
I think it could be. I don't think it will be right away. And we're going to not serve it just for an hour. We were thinking we would open at 11, maybe 10:30, and we would feed until 1. And it's, I just wanted to correct that we're also going to be doing some hot meals. We're able to do that now. We can use the stove here. So we're talking about real meals. And then we're also talking about meals to go, so that we'll have enough food left over. We're going to be gleaning from various places. People can take a meal with them. Maybe they can get 2 meals for coming here once a day. I can't, I don't know. My gut feeling is I think that up and rolling, we're going to see some big numbers. I can just try, and we would, keep records, and so we all really want to know that question. Mr. Cleveland, everybody asked that question. We ask it on the Interfaith Council. Everybody's asking, does anybody know how many people we're talking about? And it's really been hard to pull together.
The thing that I would love to see in this city, soup kitchens, warming stations, they're really important. The thing that I had struggled with these structures is that it still keeps those people utilizing those services separate. It's still it's important because it's feeding the basic need, but there are more needs that people have beyond just sustenance, and I would love, I have seen, and I would love in other places, and I would love to see in this town some kind of structure where people who have this need can come and eat meals that aren't just just basic nourishment, but are genuinely excellent meals that anybody, regardless of their means, would be happy to come and share that meal. The thing that about a soup kitchen is it really separates. It continues to separate people in that strata of society, and I like notions, structures that have that invite people to have a meal of any income, and that, in the long term, I know there are immediate needs that need to be met, but I'm sure you're familiar with, for example, the Bread and Roses in the Bay Area. Those kinds of things. They're like the community garden, CSA based, pay what you can type entities where the food is exquisite and people can sit down and eat in dignity across income levels. I don't know what it would take to be able to realize an aspiration like that, but if I were imagining how I would really like to address this issue, that's in the ideal, and maybe you can't achieve an ideal, but an ideal gives you a compass point. That's the kind of thing that I would personally aspire to. And what you're talking about is important. It's crucial. Have to get people, meet the immediate need of getting people fed and helping them protect themselves from the bitter elements. But we've been having a lot of conversations around the homelessness issue. This Arpa money has been a good thing because it's been stimulating that conversation. I wonder how Waterville can not just meet the basic need, but how can we really excel at learning how to deeply address some of the more fundamental issues beyond just like their need for food.
Thank you. I don't think I could have paid you for that comment. I think that you've been bugging my office. You have just spoken to my heart. You've spoken to conversations that I've had with Pastor Ian Lynch here, other people on my advisory committee. Your ideals are my ideals. I'm 100% with your vision. I think it can be done. Some of the things we were talking about, you know that I wanted to get into the Sacred Heart Church, and I had a plan there. We were talking about guest chefs. The meal program we're talking about rolling out, and you have to understand that I feel under pressure. You get up here and you say, okay, tell us all this stuff about this important thing. Your life's depending on it, but you have 2 minutes. Yes, so we're talking exactly about this. We're talking about meals that you would want to eat, that I would want to eat. We're talking about the whole community. It's not just the homeless and the very poor. For instance, the people at the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen tell me about people who are working downtown, and they come over for lunch and they say they're just trying to get something to eat because they're a couple of days away from a paycheck. So it's a lot of people who are working. We're talking about, like the pastor here said, the meal program they had, people pay as they can. If you can come in and you want to join us for lunch, we welcome that. We want food that we want to eat. I want food that I could serve at my home and invite you to come and dine with me. And I hate the word soup kitchen. I actually never use it. It's a Depression era word, and it's just labeling. I call it a community kitchen, and I think there's a lot here that we can do, and I think that all the things that you mentioned are absolutely spot on, and thank you for mentioning them. And I welcome you being part of that conversation because that's what we want to do.
Rev Mo, are you going to stop going to the parks to feed people?
We're going to be challenged about that because we're being challenged right now with the weather and some of the elderly who say they don't want to be standing around in the parks. There are a lot of these volunteers who are saying, can't we get into a place and cook there? Not cook there, but serve there.
Yep.
So I think we might need a mobile food program, yes.
Well,
this is, unfortunately, I'm in a position now where to build this up, I have to take away some of those people to come here and do this. And there are a list of volunteers people have contacted me since our article, and they just say, I just don't want to be outside. When you get that place, let me know. So we'll see. We got some stuff to work out here.
Because, we don't have a ton of transportation. If you're homeless,
That's right.
Not many of you are going to have a car.
I've looked into, maybe it would be a cheaper option just to buy a mobile food truck.
You go stuff over Head of Falls, right? Is that one of the spots where you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
They go to the Head of Falls, they go to the Concourse, they go to Veterans Park. As the Green Street Park?
Yep.
Yeah, that's Green Street Park, yeah.
I'm just making sure that there's still going to be some of that because,
Yeah.
like you say, if people are going to these parks, they may not be able to make it out here, which is one of the issues we were going to run into on the other side of College Ave, is getting people to that location to be able to eat. And I just want to make sure that if you guys decide to do this, that we're not just dependent on people showing up at this location to be able to find food.
Jay, I've been bringing food down there over to the home place
Yep.
and American Lodge, and that's been a food desert.
Yep.
And I've been trying to address that ever since you and I spoke. I think there are a lot of things to address. This is just one piece of, probably the biggest piece, but I don't necessarily want to shut down anything else that we think is also important.
said, I don't want to trade one for the other. And
Correct.
not-
I think this is the bigger bang for the buck. I think we can reach more people. I think that one of the things, one group of people that is not served by the mobile food delivery system are the elderly.
Yep.
And so just having this sense of community and coming in and being able to sit and just, it also speaks to reducing their isolation and that kind of a thing. So it's very, multidimensional.
Just want to make sure we don't start one program and lose something else. Counselor Green.
Yeah, I would echo that, what the mayor just mentioned. I think there are people who also don't, who would prefer to receive food, outside and not come inside for various reasons. I've spoken with some people involved in looking at food delivery, and, that's something we're seeing. Some people who are homeless live in their cars, so it's also, hard to say what the transportation needs are of the homeless because it's so diverse. So, yeah, I think we need to do both, especially since we are still clearly grappling with COVID. And I do have some concerns about 150 people coming through the room in a day, if that's the estimate, because that's a big risk, COVID-wise. So I wonder what your plan is for that, and then also just wondering how the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen fits into this. Are you working with them, or would they be operating separately?
No, we're working with them.
You are?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so it would be joint program?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Absolutely. So I threw out a number that was like what it was at one time, and everything's so different today. We all know that. There's some other services about going inside people can access, charging their phones, just a variety of other things. We hope also to have people here to talk to them on certain days, some other services we could roll out. Yeah, I think that we have to have both. I think the 150, well, first of all, this is a wonderful thing to start with. This particular space is not actually, it's like not my dream kitchen. This is not where I think, where my vision will end up. But it's right now, it's available. People come here already for the essentials closet. Parking's not a problem, it's handicap accessible. We can meet them at the door, we can hand out masks. I don't think that we're gonna have 150 people in this room all at once. I think that if we would be lucky to see 150 people over a period of maybe 3 hours, because that's what we'll be serving, this wider arc of time. And it could be 150 people here and also still going to a mobile unit, I don't know. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, Rebecca, for us to really get some numbers. I think it's an opportunity for us to, really start collecting some data about what's here regarding food insecurity, hunger, even isolation.
Yeah, I mean, I think having hot meals is really important, and the gathering, the social aspect is also undeniably important, and for so many reasons. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely applaud the attempt. I mean, I'm in support of providing an indoor place for hot meals, definitely. I just, I am concerned about the COVID aspect of it.
I am too, and I can only assure you that we have nurses we're going to use the same team we use at the church to set up all our protocols. And we have people who one of them is rather skilled in public nursing, community nursing. If we have to, if the bus shows up at once, we have to limit seating. Mm-hmm. We have to do a lot of things. I mean, I can just tell you that this is an extremely sophisticated group of nurses who have been, one of them's a forensic nurse. So, I mean, these people are very sophisticated, and the church relies on their guidance, which comes from the CDC and the state Maine CDC. But yeah, this is a concerning time, and but we will take every due precaution.
Thank you.
No, it's mine.
Well, you just keep mentioning church.
Well,
and I
the
won't-
people that, okay, yeah, I can clarify that.
So that
I'm like they're like my fiscal sponsor.
I just wanted to make sure, because
Yeah.
people are gonna have that question.
Yeah.
You start giving away government funds to churches, it's gonna look kind of.
Yeah, no, it's not that. But I just want to, it speaks to the assets who are stepping up, who say, let us help you with this.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna bring in Paula Raymond and give her a moment so we can move on to the other stuff. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get back. I didn't see you.
I'll let it slide, Pumpkin. You good?
You're on mute, Paula. There you go.
I apologize. My hand showed that it was lowered and not raised. I didn't really have a comment to make, so
Oh, it's
I'm
okay.
just listening. I apologize.
Done deal. Counselor Morris?
You know, we spoke on the phone, like, and you know, after the vote for, you know, the rush to get these ARPA funds out, and how angry other folks were, you know, in the community that were out there helping and serving, you know, and trying to, you know, get to this population. And, you know, you've been very vocal, and I appreciate everything that you do. And, you know, so now we're coming and doing this. But we still have other entities out there that are trying to do the same thing. And, you know, like, everybody is coming and saying, hey, we could use money to do this. We could use money to do this. This is the program that we run. And I think, you know, like, just in this meeting, you know, I received correspondence from somebody that says, well, I have a space that is, you know, less money than, you know, what we're going to charge for here. And, you know, there's a kitchen and it's adequate for the, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm wondering if it's not probably like the best, if it's not a good idea to kind of do what we did with the housing and get all of the players that are involved in helping with this scenario and getting them in the same room, and, you know, having members of the Opera Committee there to, you know, facilitate this meeting and put together the best plan and the best, you know, use of financial funds to every organization in the city that's helping to do this. You know, I think that probably would be a good idea versus, hey, I have this plan to do this. I need this. Okay, great. 2 weeks later, hey, I run this. Let's be this. Great. Let's get everybody together. Let's figure out what services are being done, who's doing what, and, you know, help everybody that we can. Like, and does that? Yeah, I was hoping that you'd stay there, but it's fair enough.
Well, first of all, I don't do this in isolation, okay? So, the Interfaith Council is fairly well connected to the feeding programs that have been in the city for decades. The two major programs have been the Evening Sandwich Program and the Sacred Heart Church. When we talk about proposals, I mean, I'm sending out through the Interfaith Council and other sources. I've talked to Sue Morrill at the Evening Sandwich Program, Carly Karen, Waterville Area Soup Kitchen, reached out to different churches. We're looking for volunteers, but nobody in 2 years since the church has been closed down has stepped up and said, we want to duplicate this service, except for the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen people. And they have been unable to find the right place to sit, to feed people, and the kitchen. And one of the problems they encountered is a lot of churches had closed too and didn't want it there. And so I don't know that there are, and I'm sure there, if somebody's out there and they're saying, you know, I have a place. Well, there are a lot of things about that place. Where is it? The location, the kitchen has to be just right. We have to, you know, make sure that it's going to be pass inspection and all these other kinds of things. And in the meantime, we're still kicking this down the road. So I can just say that we are reaching out to every entity we know of who has ever expressed an interest in feeding people in the community. We'll be going through Healthy Northern Kennebec. We'll be going through the Evening Sandwich Program, all of these different groups, and saying, okay, now we're moving forward. You know, do you want to be a part of this? Because, to be honest, there's been so much talk, and And who stepped up? Who said to anybody, okay, I'm going to sign on this lease? I'm saying to you that I'm so desperate, I'm going to sign on this lease. And if I can get money from you, great. But we want to go forward and do this. And when I say we, it's the Waterville area soup kitchen people, Starfish Village, and people on the Interfaith Council who have said they've got a great interest in doing this too. And then we'll advertise to the public. But boy, if somebody's got some space that they can give us in a few weeks that meets everything we can get here, and it's cheaper, and the location's great, I'm all in, you know? But I've been out, we've looked at stock, and it's been pretty shocking what we've seen. So, I mean, it's a really great point, Mike, but I just think that, you know, sometimes I get, who are all these people? And we give these proposals, and there has been many, many months that people, the Waterville area soup kitchen, they went around hand in hand for a year trying to find a space. You know, they had funding, they went to banks, they went everywhere, and they just never could get this thing off the ground. So we're hoping we can do it now with your help. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Foss, then I'm gonna move on.
So this is, Revmo came to me and proposed all this. I normally would have something to say, but she's pretty much said everything. You know, it's a well thought out plan and ready to rock and roll and puts foods in hands.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Foss. Anyone else before I move on? What? Go ahead, Steve.
Just one final word from me. This is about getting something done and doing it now, not investigating and planning for another 2 months. It's already December 21st. And we have a group that's willing to step up and make the effort and do the work that needs to get done. They need a boost to get started, and I think that it's quite appropriate for the city to make that investment.
I would say that your idea of taking it from the Health and Human Services downstairs, I don't think you need to do that. I think later on tonight, if I'm not mistaken, we are looking at moving the committee that we did for nonprofits in the area. We're going to put it together with the Arpa committee. And if you're going to have a proposal from RevMo, that would be the committee that you go to. I mean, the money's going to be the same, but at least that process should be going through that committee.
I don't object to that. I just think something needs to get done.
No, but that's something that we can take up. That we budgeted for $100,000 a year for these sorts of initiatives. I mean, that's why we baked it into the budget. It's there. I don't think we have to take from somewhere else to do what we've already set money aside to do. That was it. Anyone else?
I'm fine with that.
Done deal. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Oh, sorry, Councilor Green, go ahead.
So, council committees is also on the agenda.
Oh, I had already flipped. I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, and Jennifer Johnson actually, this is kind of a good segue, asked me to report on the meeting of the Arpa committee, which met last Friday. And actually, Reverend Moe was there with some of her associates from Starfish Village Ministry, and we talked a lot about process. And she mentioned the importance of ensuring a transparent and fair process. So we did spend most of our meeting discussing how we would do that. And we do want to fast track this, but it's going to take another couple of weeks to finalize the application process for the ARPA funds, and then we'll have one for the for outside agencies as well. We're coming up with a rubric for scoring applications and eligibility, and the goal is to have this out by the end of January. So I just wanted to deliver that. That's what the ARPA committee is working on now. So there is a time consideration with this process that we're working on, but you know, we are kind of caught between following a clear process and acting expediently to an urgent need.
Wait, I apologize. Are you talking the end of January before we can decide whether or not we give the money to start this food program?
The process, what we discussed at the ARPA committee was having, being ready by the end of January to put out a process to the public to start receiving applications. So the process would take, a couple more months to receive the applications, look them over, and award decide who would receive the funds.
But to be clear, we didn't have this process in place when we gave $400,000 to the, right, like, I'm just saying, like, I don't, say again?
To be fair, we didn't have this process either when we gave money in the spring. So that's why I'm saying there is a tension here. I mean, we have, I'm not saying I'm not speaking for one way or the other. I'm just saying that's what we discussed at the ARPA committee meeting. So as far as our process goes, we're going to be ready with an application process at the end of January. That's the goal. But then there will be several more months before we actually disperse ARPA funds. And presumably the process would be similar for the outside agency funds that we put aside for local nonprofits.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, like I hear this 3-month thing now, like I'm trying to understand when we're going to have the ability to give them money. So you're saying that the ARPA committee is not going to have any ability to give them money until, well, the end of January. We'll have a form for her to fill out, and then we'll have a 2-month process. So now we're going to be in the spring. Is that when we're going to be able to have people come inside to have meals, or what? I don't understand what you're saying here, Rebecca. I apologize.
No, I think you got it. That's exactly right, Mike. So if the council decides we want to use the process that the ARPA committee is coming up with, we would not be dispersing funds until sometime into the spring.
But those are ARPA funds. We're talking about the money that's in our budget already.
Yeah.
So
Go
I'm
ahead.
saying.
So let me help this out a little bit. Does anybody, like Steve had said during his manager's brief, does anybody have a strong objection to $15,000 going to Starfish? If so, speak now or forever hold your peace.
No. I'm going to go to Councilor Frankie first, and then Councilor DeBrito. You're on mute, Claude.
So I think you're right, Rick, that the short-term way to approach this is to use money that's in the city budget already that hasn't been spent, that could be spent for health and welfare. So I don't see any particular objection to the city manager going ahead with the process. What I think Mike Morris is pointing out is that we've kind of been slipshod about the way we're going about these kinds of things. And there, I think Councilor Green is right that we need to get our processes in order. Nevertheless, it seems like this is a small budget item with an immediate impact. So I would recommend that we let the city manager, give the city manager the discretion to go ahead and see if we can get something done right away.
Councilor DeBrito.
My question, I think Council Frankie kind of clarified it a little bit, but these funds are coming out of the health and welfare fund, so they're not coming out of the ARPA fund.
That's correct? Yeah, they do not have to come out of ARPA funds at all.
Okay. So yeah, I definitely support that. I see that as an immediate need, and it's just, I mean, it's just a little bit to get them started. And I think that right now, like when we're speaking of like right now, I think right now that is the right thing to do. Yeah, so I definitely support that.
Done deal. Looks like you guys will see that probably at your next meeting. All right. Any other committees? All right. Now moving on to the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any, no discussion. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Can't hear you.
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel Thomas,
I think he left.
He's gone.
is Counsel Thomas not on?
Nope.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right. What is the reconsideration resolution 254, 2021?
So we need a motion to reconsider.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Authorize the renewal of liquor licenses expiring between January 1, 2021 and March 31, 2021. Can we move to adopt?
We already, I thought we just did with that movement.
So there's a
But
motion to
yes.
reconsider?
But yes.
Yes.
So we need to make an amendment to change this to January 1, 2022 to March 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Sorry, dude.
All right, we got a second. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Still on the other thing.
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel Thomas still absent.
Yep.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. Can we move as amended?
Move as amended.
Second.
Oh, Claude?
I just have a technical question. The Pagoda Express is on this list. Is that the Chinese restaurant that just closed?
I'm not aware if they've closed.
They have.
They have?
Yeah.
Yep.
So how does that affect, can they still use their liquor license, or can they sell it? I'm not sure how the technicalities are here in Maine.
The liquor license is not transferable, but I'm unaware if they're closed permanently or
I
are they
think they
closed
are.
for
I
a
think
period.
they're-
I don't know.
I think
There's
they're
no
done.
harm in approving it if they don't come in with a formal application and pay the fee to the state, then it's a moot point. They don't have a liquor license. But if they decide to open up again next week because they were closed for some short-term reason that I'm not aware of, then they could come in and get their license. So you can remove them or leave them. It's
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that for me.
okay.
Can I get a roll call, Patty?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Yep.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to unfinished business. Ordinance 229, 2021.
Could we have a motion to read by title only
That is a motion made, please.
for all
Second.
items?
All
All
items.
Roll call.
Counsel Morris.
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Yep.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. Ordinance 229,
2021. Yep.
an ordinance providing for amendment to ethics ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Now we're over. Any discussion?
I will point out that the amended version that's in your packet needs to be substituted for the version that you had last time. We did make a few changes. The amendments were incorporated from last time. And we did meet with the city manager, and City Manager, do you have any amendments that you want to offer, or?
We had a good conversation. We put aside most of the concerns that I had by way of explanation by both legal counsel and the chair of the Ethics Committee. We left one matter open, which was the definition of ethics, where it currently reads moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conduct of an activity. And I suggested that that be substituted with the rules of conduct recognized in respect to a particular class of human actions. My feeling was that that second definition goes more toward the conduct of business in the city as opposed to the implication of morality in the first definition that was offered. We didn't come to resolution on that, and we agreed to leave it up to the council as to whether it wanted to offer an amendment to change that definition or leave it as it is. And the other item had to do with the training requirements in the ordinance. We agreed to insert language, and I think it has to be done by amendment, that says, quote, "The Ethics Committee shall develop the training requirements." There was no mention of that, of who would be responsible for doing that in the original draft of the ordinance. And that was, just sort of tying a bow on it.
So, sorry, my apologies.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Daly, line E is what you're specifically talking about in your first part,
Yes.
okay?
Okay.
Currently, it says moral principles, blah, blah, blah. Can you run that by us one more time?
Yes. You mean what I suggested?
Yes, sir.
What I suggested was the rules of conduct recognized in respect to a particular class of human actions. And the conduct of city business is a particular class of human action. And the ethics ordinance constitutes the rules of conduct.
I'll make that motion, but I also want to, where's the other part that we were talking about? I was flipping through, because.
The second one?
Yep. Where is it loaded in here?
The second one just had to do with well, they're two different sections, so you should probably amend them separately.
Okay. So I'll move that one first.
And that has to do with section 2.
I need a second. I need a second on,
Yes.
hold on. I need a second
So
on
the
that.
motion that you're proposing, Counselor, is to substitute the definition of ethics with the one that was just read by
Correct.
City Manager Daley.
Correct.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Can I get a roll call on that amendment?
Are they ready for a roll call? Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Move as amended.
Second.
No, there's one other amendment that we would propose, and that's to add to section 10A, quote, "The Ethics Committee shall develop the training requirements," unquote.
Sounds reasonable.
I'll move to amend that,
No, we good.
that section with the proposed language.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that, Counselor Green?
I just have a question. So this is a new requirement for all city employees and elected officials?
Yes, Section 10 was proposed as a new section to require training, annual training.
Okay. But it wouldn't be required for appointed members, correct?
It is elected and appointed people are required. The same folks that are required to submit a disclosure statement would be required to complete the annual training.
Okay, I thought I saw, where the appointed members were, the language was struck out in the language, so I'm just confused, so, just above section 2 definitions, it says the operation of the city of Waterville requires ethical conduct by city officials and employees to meet the needs of the city, et cetera, et cetera.
If I may add, maybe a definition of city officials needs to be added so that we clarify that.
We have a definition in the ethics ordinance currently of what a city official is.
Okay, it's
There you
just
go.
that the language, whether elected or appointed, was struck out. So the intent was not to disqualify appointed officials from this requirement then?
Correct.
Right? Okay, great.
No, we're still lumped in.
True story.
We're elected,
True
right?
story.
We're elected, but it's the appointed folks I was wondering about. I'm just curious if this applies to appointed people
Yes.
as well.
And it does.
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
All right, can I get a roll call on that amendment?
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council DeBrito,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes,
Council Foss,
Yes.
Council Frankie.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Move as amended.
Patty, can I get a roll call?
Before you move
Oh,
on.
go ahead.
Is there a second to them move as amended?
Oh,
Second.
Okay. Now we need to substitute this entire document for the one that you originally had. So I would amend by substitution.
There you go. So moved.
Second.
Good Lord.
can I get a roll call on that one? A lot of roll calls for this one.
Second on this roll call.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council DeBrito?
Yes.
Council Klepak?
Yep.
Council Green?
yes.
Council Foss?
Need a roadmap to get back to city council, yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. Now move as amended.
Yes. So moved.
Okay.
Wow, let's not get up there. We have had a whole meeting on this one topic.
Let's take another roll call. That was fun.
Ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council DeBrito?
Yes.
Council Klepak?
Yes.
Council Green?
Yes,
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All that and none of you bought a house. All right, move. Can we go on to 2/30/2021?
An ordinance providing for amendment to administrative ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
God, I hope not.
Claude's thinking, I'm gonna give him a second.
Second.
All right,
What's that?
roll call.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council DeBrito?
Yes.
Council Klepak?
Yes.
Council Green?
yes.
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to ordinance 2/31/2021.
An ordinance providing for amendment to personnel ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Patty, can I get a roll call?
Council Morris?
Yes.
Council DeBrito?
Yes.
Council Klepak?
Yes.
Council Green?
Yes,
Council Foss?
Yes.
Council Frankie?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, moving on to ordinance 257/2021.
Amend the marijuana ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second. What?
Any discussion? Counselor Green?
yeah, I'm just wondering if someone could clarify the scope of the change in these two licenses between the,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
She would like to know the scope of the change between what we've, of that amendment.
It's a very narrow scope. It's adding the dispensaries, which allows for a few extra activities to take place, but it's still within the same footprint of the areas that are licensed already. So if they wanted to have, for example, a large cultivation facility, that would fall under a cultivation license. This allows for some retail, some other activities, grow, that sort of thing on a small scale. My understanding is that it allows for some tax advantages for those facilities. So we've had some inquiries of retail establishments that would like to transfer to a dispensary for those tax advantages. And also there's banking allowances that aren't allowed with some of the retail establishments that they want to take advantage of.
Right, it was really the footprint that I was wondering about. So.
Yes, it's still the same footprint.
Yeah, they won't
Okay,
change.
great, thank you.
And I'm not gonna lie, whatever portrait mode you're using right now makes it so much easier. It's not hard to see your hand.
Yeah, it's a real easy fix. I'm just standing up, Jay. So.
Yes. All right, anyone else?
All right.
So the night's gonna go.
All right. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Resolution 258, 2021.
Amend rates charged to municipalities for Waterville Police Department dispatch services.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, this proposal was postponed from the last meeting because we found what we thought was an error in the calculations. Turns out that there was no error in the calculations, but you've been redistributed the same numbers that you were given last time. This lays out the fee structure for the several communities that Waterville provides emergency dispatch services to. There are some that we provide services for fire, police, and ambulance, and there are others that we do just fire and ambulance. There are two different rates being charged, and all the rates are based on dollars per capita of population. Chief Massey is here to answer any questions that you have.
Anybody got any? Chief? So,
Good evening. As the city manager said, these are the new rate increases that would become effective July 1 of 22, if in fact you adopt these rates. And they're two-tiered. They're for those communities, again, that just have fire and EMS, and then for those communities that have fire, police, full service. And that's the difference between the two rates.
And nothing else has changed from our discussions and when we sat there. We discussed the percentage for making sure that our equipment was going to be up to date going forward. I remember we were looking at the rates for if we do just fire or if we do fire and police.
Yeah.
But none of those rates have changed.
No, and you'll see that there is a 3% capital improvement structure fee in there.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was still baked in. I don't mind providing services to other communities, but we're going to get paid for it. If we're going to be a service center, then it's time
Yes.
for everyone to start contributing.
Yes.
Any
I
other
think it's
questions?
a fair rate and reflects what's the market is out there.
I believe so too. Rick, any questions? Anybody else? Go ahead, Steve.
I'd like to add something to that, that I want to reassure you all that the rates that we're charging to these other municipalities cover the city's cost for providing the service, as well as a set-aside for capital replacements, overtime, and a provision in the agreements that the city can raise the rates to match the cost of any extraordinary or unforeseen costs that we encounter during the period of contract.
So we're not going to get caught with our pants down.
So no more rate increases for the time being.
Well,
No more rate increases for the time being after
No,
this?
I think there'll be some going forward. I mean, as things
Yeah,
change.
this goes through the 20.
Right, but I mean, no drastic jumps like we've done for the last
No, this
couple
goes
years.
through 2024.
No,
so,
no drastic
yeah.
jumps, and
Okay.
if something catastrophic happens, we're gonna be okay. Nope.
I think we had the big jump when we did this.
Yes, we did. The first time we had a
Yeah.
pretty big jump, but we
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we didn't scare away any partners.
Right.
And really, while everyone's listening, if you're a community that we don't supply services to, call the chief. We'll start providing them for you.
Sure.
Other than that, Patty, gonna roll call if there's no more discussion. I don't see any.
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito?
Yes, sorry.
Counsel Klepak?
Yes.
Counsel Green?
Yes.
Counsel Foss?
Yes.
Counsel Frankie?
Yes,
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to ordinance 259, 2021.
Amend the animal control ordinance.
Move to adopt?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, seeing none, Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito?
Yes.
Counsel Klepak?
Yes.
Counsel Green?
Yes.
Counsel Foss?
Yes.
Counsel Frankie?
yes,
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, new business. Resolution 263, 2021.
Authorize an application for a CDBG Lockwood Mills Development Program grant.
Move to adopt?
Second.
Any discussion? Counselor Frankie.
this is what we had the public hearing about at the beginning of the meeting, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so we're just following through on what was discussed then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bring her in. Hi, Tammy. You're back again.
And muted. There we go. Nope, there we go. She's muted.
You're muted, Tammy. Oh, there you go.
Okay, there we go. Thanks so much. So I just wanted to go through like the fair housing program that'll be coming up next. What the city is authorizing is to accept the funds and spend them according to the RCDBG and federal guidelines. And I'm just going to skip ahead if it's okay to 264-201 with the fair housing program. That's the fair housing resolution. And there'll be a couple other documents that you'll be presented for the next council meeting. And all of this is part of our project development phase. And what it's doing is showing how the city of Waterville is following fair housing, equal opportunity, standards of conduct, that you have good accounting principles, that you do procurement fairly and squarely. And it's just part of our package to have on file should HUD come to monitor us and say what's going on with City of Waterville. We've done $7.3 million worth of grants with the City of Waterville since 1982. You're in our good graces. We love doing business with you. And this is just part of the package because there's so many new council members and administrative people in the City of Waterville. We've had these on file, these documents on file for a number of years, but due to the big turnover with the council, we are requiring the city to re-sign all these documents. So it's more of a formality, and you will see more of them at your next council meeting to complete the package. That's it.
Thank you, Tammy. Counselor Frankie.
So, let me get this straight, Ms. Knight. You think that because we're all new faces, that we're not as ethical and going to follow the rules? Excuse me, but Waterville does things the correct way, and we're still going to do it the correct way.
Absolutely, and I'm sorry if there's any understanding, Councilor Frankie. This is because The last time we had these documents signed, none of you were council people. And HUD does require that the city sign these documents when applying for a grant, and we haven't had the city of Waterville sign a new set since all of you have come on board, because we haven't done a grant with the city of Waterville since all of you have come on board. So it's more keeping you apprised of what the requirements are for HUD. No offenses at all meant to the city of Waterville. We have 3 grants going on right now with the city of Waterville that were authorized through previous councils, and like I said, you're all in our good graces. It's been a pleasure doing business with you and working with your finance department and acting as a conduit for these federal funds.
Well, good, Mrs. Knight. I was simply being devil's advocate. I did not mean to cast any aspersions.
No offense taken.
Any further discussion on this? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council DeBrito,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Foss.
Yes.
Council Frankie.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, moving on to Resolution 264, 2021.
Adopt Fair Housing Program.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Green.
Well, yeah, so just to the point of, since these grants were implemented or initiated before we were all here, have there been any changes in this program? Presumably we've always adopted fair housing program guidelines, but.
Tammy, has there been any changes? I can't answer that for you, Councilor Green. Steve, have there been any changes? The fair
The housing program?
Yeah.
No. It's a HUD program. It's required to be eligible for the CDBG funds, and the obligations of the city are primarily to distribute information.
Right, okay, so, have we always had this obligation, or are we just?
I can't hear.
Have we always had this obligation? I think.
Yes.
I think
Every time
all
we accept
partners-
CDBG funds, we're obligated to sign on to this program and carry it forward.
Oh, Tammy's got her hand back up. She can answer some of those questions. Flavia does too.
Thank you. That's a great question, Councilor Green. The city of Waterville has always adopted the Fair Housing Resolution, and it's specifically stating that the city does offer fair housing, that you're not discriminatory in any of your Section 8 housing programs, and it's more of a formality for HUD just signing off on that.
Flavia. Anything else, Councilor Green, or can I move to Flavia?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Councilor DeBrio?
You're muted.
Okay, I have a question. So has it been like, and how do you file like a complaint against HUB? Like, if you were discriminated against, what is that process? Like, I'm trying to understand what is that process, and where does the city fit in with that process? Like, if you had a complaint, like, how would you go about that?
Thank you, Tammy. Go ahead. Thank you, Tammy. Go ahead.
We do have posters that we can give the city to post at City Hall to advise community members on how to file a complaint with HUD should they wish to do so. If you'd like some of those fair housing posters, I can certainly get them to you.
Does the city have that right now?
We're about to get some. Tammy, just send them our way.
So,
I will
we
do that.
So we've been operating under the hub, so and we haven't been advising the people where to go to complain?
No,
I can't understand
Councilor
what
DeBrito.
what the people on TV are saying.
Councilor DeBrito is making sure that there are signs and that we have postings and that we're explaining to our residents how they can complain against against Maine State Housing.
That is all in the package of the program. And the contact information, who they talk to, where they go, is all there, and that's the information that we're obligated to disseminate. We'll send it out to the newspapers, we'll publish it on the city's website, we'll put it on our Facebook sites, and we'll use the public outreach tools that we have.
Does that answer your question, Flavia?
Yeah, it does kind of answer my question. And also too, I kind of had a question like, do they have like a committee? Does the hub have a committee through the city? And when is their meetings? Because I would really like to know that information.
We don't have a HUD committee.
No.
Ever heard?
We have no internal mechanism to deal with this, nor do we have any obligation to.
Yeah. Councilor Green, did you have something?
Well, I mean, we have the obligation to let people know that they have rights regarding discrimination with housing, right?
Yes.
That's our obligation.
Yeah, that's I believe that's on a federal level anyway, so that's absolute. Am I incorrect in that statement?
Everybody is speaking so softly tonight.
You have to
Come sit over here,
turn
Steve.
that up.
Steve, explain to us the civil rights, the act here. This is coming from the Fed.
Yes.
We're the middleman to guide resources back and forth.
That's exactly it. We
And that's
we
it.
take the money from the CDBG money from the state, we give it to Lockwood Mills, and that's how.
And as far as this act, sorry to interrupt, I'm trying to help this out. So for this act, we are the middleman to guide people back and forth through resources. We're not committees. We're not committees. We're not we're not obligated to handle any of it except for passing of materials and guiding of resources.
Correct.
There you go.
Can Tammy go right ahead?
Thank you. The City of Waterville has the fiduciary responsibility as the applicant for these grant funds on behalf of the Lockwood Mills Development Corporation. As I stated before, the city has signed these documents a number of times when receiving CDBG funds. It's a part of our project development phase, just making assurances to HUD that the City of Waterville has proper procurement and has sound financial practices, and that it's an equal opportunity employer, and that it has fair housing within the city, and that it has ADA accessibility, and if it doesn't have ADA accessibility, it makes reasonable accommodations. It's all everything we've been doing. Believe me, it's there.
Yeah,
To draw a parallel,
Sorry, Councilor Green, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I think it's an important reminder of you know our obligation, because I think fair housing is a right of all Americans. So it's a reminder of our obligation to make that information available to people. So yeah, good.
All right. Any further discussion? Oh, wow. I've got 1, 2, 3. Can we bring in Katie White, please?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to offer a couple of thoughts on the fair housing. I think it's a separate issue to what's being requested as part of this particular CDBG project. I think it's relatively pro forma, so this is separate from that. And it really speaks to what Councilor DeBrito was speaking about. Under the Fair Housing Act, every municipality who receives CDBG funding has an affirmative duty to the duty is called the duty to affirmatively further fair housing. It's a fairly toothless duty right now, but there is an interim rule through the Biden administration that actually has it's a bit more robust. I do think this is a significant issue within the city. And I would also mention this as well. The duty to affirmatively further fair housing applies not only to publicly funded housing, but to also private housing that is captured or covered by the Fair Housing Act. I think this is something that the council should take up, particularly through the Housing Committee. I think that there is a lot of disparate impact discrimination that takes place in housing. That's not, it's not necessarily a conversation for right now, but I did, in the context, since this is generally a pro forma activity, when a council decides to authorize CDBG funding, that we name that there is actually this duty to affirmatively further fair housing. There is a lot that municipalities can do to address that. And then also, Councilor DeBrito, just so that you're aware and so people in the community are aware, there's federal fair housing law, but there's also state fair housing obligations as well. There's some slightly different categories of people who are in protected classes. And so right now, if people wanted to make a complaint around fair housing, you can either do it through a report to the area HUD office, which I believe is in Boston, but you can also make a complaint to the Maine Human Rights Commission. And a lot of the information for those kinds of complaints are on the Human Rights Commission website. And I believe this particular ordinance that the council is considering this evening would signpost people in the community to those places where they could seek redress. It doesn't necessarily solve an immediate housing crisis, but it would allow people to have a process to raise those complaints and have them adjudicated in some way. So I just wanted to offer those thoughts that I think there's a lot more the city can do, and that this would be a great topic or a great issue for 2022 for the Housing Committee to tackle, to see if there are more ways that we can address the issue. For example, we're seeing a lot of housing discrimination. On the face of it, it looks like there's housing discrimination currently against households with children. Households with children are in a protected class status. So we would want to be able to uncover that data, pick it apart a little bit more, and then figure out if there's things that we could do at the municipal level to redress some of those housing disparities.
Thank you, Katie. Can we bring in Paula Raymond, and then we'll bring in Elizabeth Leonard. Paula, you're on mute.
I apologize, it takes me a minute to get off mute. I keep trying.
Nope, you're good.
Thank you for letting me in. I'm glad that we got back to the part where we're talking about the authorizing of the CDBG and the Adopting Fair Housing Program, because I'm a little bit confused. And again, I don't understand a lot of this, but with the Lockwood Mill being addressed for different types of housing, and then listening to the different conversations that Libby Trio, the questions she has had, and then Katie speaking about the different types of legal ramifications of not being an equal opportunity landlord, so to speak. I'm just wondering why the Lockwood is allowed to not have a portion of their building for Section 8 people. I don't, because it sounded like to me when Tammy was talking, is that they would definitely be included and they would be discriminated against if they were not a part of that building, having the opportunity to apply to live there. And the other part for me, I always appreciate when Katie comes on and she speaks, the legalese she uses though is so complicated for someone like myself as just a citizen listening in. And it isn't her job to water it down, but I'm hoping that as we move along, especially in the Housing Committee, that we can bring it down to the level where people can understand because she names so many different things, and it's hard to wrap my head around it. So two things, wondering why Lockwood is exempt from having Section 8, and to Katie's point, appreciating the all of the ramifications that can happen with the city if we're not careful about how we apply housing for people.
Thank you, Paula. Tammy, I'll let you answer that.
Thank you, and that's a good question, Paula. This fair housing resolution that we're asking the city to sign on to is more about discrimination, and that people cannot be discriminated against for race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin in any of their housing applications to the city. So anybody making a Section 8 application to the housing, to the city of Waterville will not be discriminated on those bases. It's not anything income-based. It's not anything Section 8 based. This is more discriminatory for housing.
Okay, thank you.
Can we bring Elizabeth Leonard in, please?
Hi, I guess, thanks for letting me speak again. I guess the question I had that I sent as part of a public comment earlier today was, and I feel it even more strongly now because it sounds like all of this is just very pro forma and there are lots of ways to slip in and out of these kinds of protections and even get the information out to people. But anyway, I'm just thinking, has the city ever, or would it ever consider establishing a fair housing ordinance for the city that just says this is how we operate as a city, as opposed to, we do this because we want a grant, so we're gonna find a way to, make sure we can get that grant and use as few protected categories as possible. And just one other thing I'd say relative to what Paula just mentioned is, it really doesn't seem right that the poorest among us are not a protected class somehow, especially in housing. So.
I'm going to let Tammy answer that for you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you for asking that. This particular resolution is under Title 8 of the 1968 Civil Rights Act, which is the federal fair housing law, which is all about discrimination. Again, it's not income-based. It goes back to the Civil Rights Act.
Okay, but that doesn't get around the question of whether, the city could still establish an ordinance that says we protect people in this city. Our vision of our city is that we would have fair housing for everybody, and we could have all the classes in there, the protected groups that we would want to have. That would be completely separate from this, right?
Absolutely. Should the city wish to move forward with a different resolution of their own, that's certainly acceptable. But for the purposes of the grant, we do need this resolution for the federal fair housing law.
Councilor Green, then Councilor Foss. Not Councilor Foss, Councilor Frankie.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it does sound like we're talking about two different issues. One is the lack of available housing at all income levels, and the other is discrimination against housing that exists. So, I guess we should be mindful of that, and I appreciate Elizabeth's comment about not having this be just pro forma. I mean, that's why we're adopting it, so that we can pass on these grant funds, but I think it's worth, I would like to see the city take a stand on really meaning it, that we stand for this fair housing law, and that we actively want to prevent discrimination. And then the other question about Section 8 is, we need more projects, we need more housing.
Hall School looks like a good one. Councilor Frankie.
Well, I think Councilor Green has correctly pointed out that we've got two issues. One is the one that's currently before us, which is passing this resolution to keep the wheels turning on the Lockwood Mills project. I don't think that there's any particular debate on that. Let's keep that project going. As far as the concerns that other members of the community have raised about fair housing and in general, and whether the city needs to take a stand, I think that that's something that may come before the Housing Committee, and I wouldn't be surprised to see us adopt our own fair housing ordinance in the near future.
Agreed. But as far as tonight, we are dealing with this issue. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Resolution 265, 2021.
Assign the charge of the Community Service Organization Committee to the Arpa Committee.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak, Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right. We are on to the counselor comments portion of the evening. Anybody have anything to say? Go ahead, Counselor Frankie.
I'd just like to point out that this is the winter solstice. The days will start to get longer, and eventually it will be spring and summer again. Thank goodness. And in the meantime, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, Claude. I appreciate that. Counselor Foss and Counselor Klepak.
Same as Councilor Frankie. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
I would like to add, go ahead, Klepak.
Well, yeah, Merry Christmas and all that. Happy holidays, whatever it is that gets you there. I'm so happy that we're at the winter solstice and heading towards the light. The city has just printed up 4,500 little postcards that are going to be mailed. Hopefully, I'm hoping that that happens in a timely manner. But the city is going to be mailing 4,500 postcards out to all the residents of Waterville, with a little QR code and a URL directing them to a survey for brown-tail moth. It's important that people take the time to actually fill out the survey so that we have an accurate picture and of what is in the city, and we can be able to correctly address the problem. Yeah. So that's my announcement. When you get it in your mailbox, it's during the holidays here. Take 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is. Fill out the survey, whether you've got it or not. Whatever. Just let us know that you're out there and that you care about the issue. Thank you.
Last meeting of the year, and you still got Browntail in there somehow. You just had to. I mean, I get it. It is what it is.
Hang that up, man. I'm sorry. Someone's got to be doing it.
I want to take a minute to. This was Councilor Thomas's last council meeting. So I know he left already, but I wanted to make sure that he understood that I appreciated my time with him, time on the council, the work that we did. We'll get Councilor McCormick here in January, but I wanted to make sure that Eric knew that his service to the city was appreciated. And he will continue, because I'm going to force him onto some committees, so it is what it is. Anyone else? Steve.
Two things. First of all, you should recognize that as a council and a mayor, you have acted on 265 significant actions on behalf of the people of Waterville this year. That's no small task. Some of them were larger than others, but you took 265 meaningful votes, aside from all the amendments.
We took like 30 votes just on that one.
And I want to congratulate all of you for working through the trials and tribulations of this last year of COVID. We're still in it now with this setup that we have, that's a hybrid in-person and on Zoom meetings. They're not easy, as we all know, and I think that you've been tremendously patient and very effective in conducting the business of the city. And then finally, I want to extend a personal thank you to Eric Thomas. He has been a tremendous resource for me in my first year here in Waterville. He's helped me understand and navigate the political waters of Waterville. He's introduced me to a number of important people in this city, and I do appreciate what he's done for me, and I know you all appreciate what he's done for the city over the time he's been involved. So thank you, Eric.
We don't like him that much. No, I'm just kidding. All right, moving on to public comments of the evening. Anyone with comments from the public? Oh, I see none, you guys. Got it.
Yeah.
I see none, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Wait, do we have to, are we going into executive session?
We are going to go into executive session after this, and we will not be coming back.
So do not do that motion to adjourn, but we will adjourn after the
Yes, we
executive
will
session.
adjourn after, but for
with
now,
with no further city business being conducted.
none.
Can someone make the motion with the title in it?
I would if I hadn't closed on
1
my
second.
laptop already.
Is there a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Title I MRSA Section 4056A?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Yes, so do I.